Next Up, a part of Donnybrook on 9 PBS. I am Wendy Wiese, of course, flying with Bill McClellan this evening. Almost 200 years ago, the first modern public libraries were opened in the United States, creating free, open-to-all community hubs, connecting people to resources. In today's digital world, individuals and families rely on libraries for more than just books. For many, libraries are their only access to the internet and educational resources. Recently, libraries have been in the headlines for challenging a book ban in Missouri. As a result, the Missouri House voted to defund libraries in this state. However, budget writers in the Missouri Senate restored the funding just yesterday. Joining us to discuss the ups and downs of life in the library is Kristen Sorth. She is Director and CEO of St. Louis County Public Libraries. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. Bill and I are both grandparents, and our grandchildren love the libraries, their favorite places. Now, with Missouri's action yesterday, going ahead and restoring the funding, does this mean that the battle is over and the skies are blue?
Well, we hope so. It has to go back through the process, so it goes through conference committee and then goes back through the vote. But we are hopeful that the funding will be restored and we can move on.
You know, when we talk about book banning and age-appropriate books and whatever the legislature is talking about, are you supposed to card kids when they come in and look for certain books, or how does that work?
So for us and for librarians, we have professional standards, and we select materials that reflect the community that we serve, and we're purchasing materials that reflect the diverse community of the St. Louis region. And what one person may like, another person may not like. And so we leave those decisions up to the parents. So we feel the parents are and guardians are the best decision makers for their child and what they should be reading. So we just want to make sure our collection is reflective of the community.
Right, but what I mean is if a child comes in and wants a book that some people would say, that's an adult book, do you question that, or is it just, if you can put your money on the bar, we serve you? How does that work?
We let the parents decide. That's really what we do. And we do have, you know, we have children's spaces and teen spaces, and so we do have books in those collections that are geared towards those demographics of kids.
If defunding is ever on the table again, and as you said, we don't know, we can be hopeful, who is most impacted? Because if the pandemic showed us anything, you know we're all, I think, more up to date on the problem of food deserts. There is a broadband desert out there, and the library fills a really significant place in that and in terms of access. So who would be most affected if defunding ever actually materialized?
So most public libraries get their dollars from tax. We're tax supported, but rural libraries in particular, state aid makes up a much larger portion of their budget. For us, it's about 0.8%, so it's not a huge portion of our budget. But for rural libraries, they also get a federal match. So for them, that match is based on state funding. So if they don't get state aid, it's like a double hit to them. But you're right. I mean, libraries continue to provide all kinds of resources for people in our community and really are a safety net for many people, and really stepped up during the pandemic and continue to stay in that place.
Is summer an especially busy time for libraries when the kids are out of school? I mean, what happens in the summer?
It is crazy. It's the busiest time of year for us because you're right, kids are out of school. We have summer reading club, and we have all kinds of fun programs for kids, teens, and adults, really. And our reading club is for kids, teens, and adults as well. So we encourage everybody to read during the summer. And we also have all kinds of other fun activities. We have Explore Story, which gets families outside finding new places in St. Louis County that pairs it with a book. And we have Star Wars Fan Day coming up at one of our branches in May, which is incredible. So summer's really, really busy, fun time for us.
You know, the library, and I'd love to hear your earliest memory of it too, Bill, but you know, growing up, I still vote at Daniel Boone because that's where my dad would drop me off to do my homework, and that's where I went to story time. And so those memories that we have they run very, very deep, and it's such a peaceful place, and it's a place where a child gets to discover who they are through the books that they read. So naturally, when you studied library sciences, you knew that one day you would be in the middle of a political firestorm, right? I mean, that's what this was really all about. Librarians just love to be in the political silos. What has the conversation been like amongst your colleagues?
I definitely think that we're in a place that is very unexpected, particularly I think because libraries provided such a vital resource during the pandemic. You know, we were there, as you said, providing meals and diapers and Wi-Fi. Everybody extended their Wi-Fi in their parking lots, so people were coming to the libraries all over Missouri and all over the United States and parking their cars and using our Wi-Fi in the parking lot. So it does seem like things have really shifted into a different place that is unexpected. I think the conversation about banning books, that has gone in and out, I think, throughout, you know, many decades. This is very different. This seems very different
Can you explain
to all
how?
of us. You know, I just think that the fact that it's happening in so many states all over across the United States where conversations about librarians are coming up, and I do think there are some librarians that are really struggling in their communities where people are really lashing out at them personally, and that's really hard. I mean, librarians are the most amazing people. They're here to help. They want to provide whatever the patrons need. That's really what we're here for, and so it's just really hard to see. It makes me sad to see them under attack.
You know, school districts in Missouri have taken certain books away, and because they're a fear that the librarians could even be arrested. But that's just the school districts. How about the public libraries? Have you taken any books off the shelves in St. Louis County?
So the law that impacts the school libraries, that really, I think, had a chilling effect on them. They were really uncertain and concerned about their school librarians. And so many people tried to think really hard about what could impact their school librarians. For us, we are not taking books off the shelf. That is not what we're doing.
When it comes to banning books, as the head of St. Louis County Library and as a reader, are your concerns different, you know, as the head of the St. Louis County Library as opposed to as somebody who has found who she is through those beautiful books?
You know, I think my perspective is that we want those beautiful books in the library, and we try and have something for everyone. And as you said, many people discover themselves there. Some people's worlds are very small, and when you come to the library, your world is suddenly enormous, and that's what we want. So I think when we think about removing books, we try and think about all the people that might want to read them. And as I said, one person may love a book and another person may not, but we want to make sure that they have access.
And before all this book banning and questionable books came up, the biggest controversy I can recall with the county library was moving your headquarters and big library from Lindbergh Road out to Town and Country.
To Frontenac.
Frontenac,
yes,
that's right.
Yes.
And is that move completed now, and how do you like the new place?
The move is completed. It's our administrative building that is there, and then the old headquarters on Lindbergh, right across from Plaza Frontenac, is actually down and under construction. So in a year from now, we will have a brand new beautiful headquarters building, the Clark family branch, and it will be entirely dedicated to the public. So that building before had a lot of behind the scenes people in it, about 180 of those people, and they're now in the new building. So teen space, children's space, a small business center, and an 800-seat auditorium event space for all of our incredible author events, which we used to have to move the shelves to have chairs there. Now we have a space.
How do you continue to reinvent yourself and to redefine the role of the library during such a tumultuous, I mean, thanks to the pandemic, it has been a fairly tumultuous era, and politically it's becoming even more tumultuous. So how do you stay ahead of that and reinvent that safe space?
I think libraries are incredible of looking to the future and seeing what patrons' needs are and then responding to those. And so we just, for us, we went through this huge construction process. So we were changing what our physical buildings were, and we decided at the same time we would start steering our priorities to be a center of community. And that meant having community partners like Operation Food Search and the Diaper Bank and all these amazing organizations in St. Louis. Librarians try to be everything to everybody, but we just can't. And so there are incredible partners in St. Louis that can provide those services, and people come to the library. I think there are lots of people that say, oh, libraries are going to be extinct someday. We have people every single day that come to the library and say, I don't have a place to go tonight. Can you help me? Or I'm not sure what I'm going to eat tonight. Can you help me? If people don't know what to do, they feel comfortable coming. We're a safe space. We don't ask questions. People can come in, and they do every single day, and particularly because we have access to Wi-Fi and public computers.
And she understands the Dewey Decimal System.
Well, I've never been able to understand that. Kristen, have you had to go down to Jefferson City and testify in front of the legislature? Or do you have hired lobbyists? I mean, who represents your interests down there?
So I have not had to go. I mean, I'm actually from Jeff City, but the Missouri Library Association has a lobbyist, and that person does what lobbyists do. They track legislation and help us with, help the organization with what's going on in Jefferson City. So I'm certainly have good relationships with our local officials and am in contact with them about what's been going on, but I haven't had to go to Jeff City.
When it comes to materials that have been scrutinized, what are the rules? What are some of the punishments that have been discussed? It's hard to believe that we're actually having this conversation for any librarian who is found to be held liable or guilty, or accused of something like this. And have you lost librarians across the state because of these? I mean, it sounds like they're getting threats, like they're receiving some threats.
I will say nationally, I think there are library directors that are retiring, and I think some of that has to do with the pandemic too. It's just an incredibly hard time for everyone, and I think the library is a field where people stay for a long time because it's such an awesome place to work. And so I think there are people that are like, I'm ready. I could have retired a while ago. I think it's time. Statewide, I think school libraries are the ones that are really struggling, and I think both teachers, the teaching profession, and school librarian profession are really struggling to have people in those jobs because it is so challenging right now for them. So not as much for us. I think people are still entering the field of librarianship, and we still have, all of our people, but I think schools are really struggling.
Is there a lot of collaboration between the various regions, like within a state, like with St. Louis County, St. Louis City, St. Charles County? Do you work together?
We do. We actually do, and we work together as a region. So we merged catalogs last year with St. Louis Public Library. We like to say it's a fine example of regional collaboration, which you all were talking about earlier. And it really gave our patrons the ability to access two giant, huge, amazing collections that really complement each other with one library card, just being able to log in. We have reciprocal borrowing with every library in the county, St. Charles, the city, also Jefferson County, and Scenic Regional, which covers Franklin and Washington County. And then as a state, the larger library directors get together, the directors of large public libraries get together once a month virtually, and then we just traveled to Columbia to meet. So we do talk all the time. It's something I think that we did before the pandemic, but oh my gosh, we needed each other during the pandemic.
Did you Zoom?
We did Zoom. We Zoomed all the time, and there were moments where we were like, what are we going to do? You know, it's really hard to run a public library in the middle of a pandemic. There's just so many places where patrons can come in. And at one point, I'm sure you all know, we thought that COVID could live on books. And so we were quarantining books for days. And so it was so much hard work for our employees. But library employees are incredible. They just rise to the occasion every time.
School districts, like I mentioned, have decided not to carry certain books. Now, does the public library then say, well, we're going to carry those books? Or do you kind of try to feel your way and sense how the water is? Or do you carry everything?
We really, we have a collection development policy, and so we
You have a collection what?
Development policy.
Okay.
So our policy is that we provide a collection that reflects the community that we serve and follows our strategic plan. And so we've got those books in our collection. That particular law impacted school libraries, so that is really why they reacted the way they do. But we have the books. Now, that doesn't mean we have every book, but it really is somewhat patron-driven. A lot of patrons request materials, and we buy the materials that our patrons request because often they are the ones who know what they want to read. And then we have professional librarians that select based on professional standards for books. So,
okay. How about political? Most of the questions about these certain books have to do with like sexual orientation. How about political? Like, do you carry, for instance, Mein Kampf?
We do. We do, and we have we have books, all kinds of books in our collection, and what one person, as I said, what one person likes, another person may not, and so we really try and have a collection that is diverse and would be available for anyone that is looking for material, and then they can request it. We have a request system, so people request all the time. That doesn't mean that the library supports the opinion in those books. It just means that we want to have a very broad collection that meets the needs of the public.
What did you make, Kristen, of the diversity and inclusion component of what was going on in Jefferson City?
It is, the library, as I've mentioned many times, we value diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. Belonging is a really important component, I think, for the library and for our world. We want
it's pretty
people,
basic.
Pretty basic. We want people to feel like they belong, and so that did make me pause, as I'm sure it did lots of people. This is a world filled with all different kinds of people, and we want them to feel like they belong. And sometimes I'm not sure that that's easy.
Well, you're not a political pundit, and I'm not putting you on the spot, honestly, but I think we've had this conversation. It's almost like we're the lawmakers simply trying to get it out there to their constituencies that we're tough on diversity and inclusion, and then they backtracked. So it's almost like you want to give them a little bit of credit, even though you don't want to give them any credit at all. Like they saw the error of their ways.
I don't know of any organization that doesn't have some sort of DEI statement
Correct.
This day. I think it's part of who we are, and as I said, belonging and feeling like you belong is a really important thing to be as a person, and so I think we all want to make people feel comfortable.
We talk about organizations. There's politically affiliated organizations, I guess would be the right term, who orchestrate protests and everything. Is there any orchestrated effort protest at the library?
We have not seen that in St. Louis County, but I think in other libraries around the country there have been instances where people have come during programs or to to engage in protests.
Maybe to get a youngster to get a certain book that he or she shouldn't have. I mean, does that go on? Is it like a gotcha sort of thing?
I think, don't you think I kind of feel like we might be in a gotcha society in general now.
Definitely.
I do think that does happen. We have not experienced that at St. Louis County, but I think that there are libraries around the country that they're struggling. They're really struggling.
Well, the easiest way to generate interest in a book is to ban it, as we've said many times. Ask some of the booksellers about, the books that have been banned or have appeared on these lists and what happens to them almost overnight. So it is kind of a difficult mindset to understand. What does the future of library sciences look like? Can you even imagine?
I think I can. I think that we still are very traditional library service. People still check out books. They still come to programs. But we also are about to start checking out pickleball kits. If you like to play pickleball and you want to try it out, which in St. Louis, I think it's wildly popular. And I think people are real serious about their pickleball. So you can check them out at the library in May, and we try and think about different things that people might want to try. And you can come to the library and get your documents notarized. We have free notary services. So I think for us, the whole concept of digital navigators is here and not going away. I think everyone thinks people know how to use technology, and that is not always the case, and they come to the library to ask. So I think we're going to continue to offer resources, technical resources, technical training, assistance, and then we're always going to have books. And we have ebooks, and they're wildly popular. So you can check out an ebook for free from the library.
I was going to ask about Kindle. I still read books.
Yes.
Paper product.
Yes.
But my wife, who reads all the time, reads Kindle. Do you do Kindle?
I'm going to get in trouble here, but I read books on the Kindle because I will tell you, I read both, but I enjoy being able to make the font bigger because I am starting to have a hard time reading the little bitty print, and I can't believe I'm saying this on television, but I enjoy it. And if I travel, getting to load all those books on a Kindle.
Well, how about the library? Do you have Kindle books at the library?
We have tons of ebooks, tons and tons of ebooks.
Now, is that the same thing? I mean, I'm such a dinosaur. Ebooks and Kindles.
Is that the same thing?
Yeah. So if you're on your Kindle, you can download a book from the library onto your Kindle. I do it all the time.
And that's called an ebook.
Yes.
And you have the big font print books, correct?
We do. We have large print books, which I just identified as maybe if I checked out those, that would be easier
even today, this is how our brains have been hardwired and changed. Because, like, if I'm reading a book, I do this. Like, I'm trying to get the font bigger. It's very, very strange. When it comes to funding for the St. Louis County Library, how is that? What's the formula?
So about 97% of our budget is made up of taxes, and then we do get state aid, and then we also have a foundation. We have the St. Louis County Library Foundation, and so private donations come in, and then we fund additional programs with private dollars as well. So, and then we also get grants, state grants, federal grants, things like that. Yeah.
When it comes to the position that the library now finds itself in, where you are such an important part of every community, at the end of the day, not only are you helping to strengthen the communities, you're bringing kids to books, right? You're bringing books to kids.
Yes. I mean, we have all the books at the library, of course, and then we also take them to the kids on bookmobiles. I'm sure lots of people in St. Louis have very fond memories of bookmobiles.
That was the biggest day. That and Pizza Day,
yes,
right?
Yes, agreed completely. And so our bookmobile fleet is aging, and we are replacing all of our bookmobiles. So we just announced a donation from Great Southern Bank for a brand new bookmobile, and we plan to replace 3 in the next year. And we will continue to bring those books to schools, and they go to preschools and to senior living facilities. So we really try and meet people where they are, and sometimes that's not in our buildings.
Do you think kids are reading as much as they used to, or more? Or have all these devices helped children? What do you think?
I think kids are still reading books. I mean, in summer, a lot of our branches, like Daniel Boone, it is a very kid-heavy branch, and sometimes they don't have. They can tell their collection is much less because all those books are checked out by kids, and we have parents that come in with their kids and check out like 50 books. You know, kids' books are little and short, and so I still think kids are reading. I think they enjoy their devices, but you know, I think they love books. And teens read. They have such incredible books for teens that adults like as well, and I think teens are reading too. We had a teen book festival last fall, and we had over 300 teens on a Saturday come to a library event.
What is the St. Louis County Library website?
It is www.slcl.org.
slcl.org. Kristen Sorth of the St. Louis County Library, CEO, thank you so much for being with us
thanks
tonight.
for having me.
And the world might change forever. I mean, it may never, ever be the same, but you could never recreate that fabulous smell of a library book.
I totally agree.
Ever.
Or of a library.
Or of a library.
If someone has an overdue book, like
For example.
that I've had for a long time, or that someone has had,
Is
how
there an
does that
amnesty
work?
program
Yes,
is what he's
there an
trying to get
amnesty
to?
program?
We don't charge fines anymore. We have no fines. You know what, we had someone mail back a book that was checked out in the 60s not that long ago.
You
People
mean
do
you
that
just
all the
trust people to be honest, and it works?
We want to remove barriers to access. So for a lot of people, fines meant that they couldn't come to the library.
A revolutionary idea.
No fines.
Kristen Sorth, thank you. Thank you so
That will
much.
never work.
On behalf of all of us at 9 PBS, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Thursday. Good night.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.